On to the latest coming in from the United States. President Donald Trump has hinted that he might fire the country's top infectious diseases expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, if he is re-elected. Take a listen in to what he said.
Don't tell anybody, but let me wait till a little bit after the election. I appreciate the advice. I appreciate that. No, he's been wrong on a lot. He's a nice man, though. He's been wrong on a lot.
Now, this came as Fauci and White House advisors clashed with each other ahead of the presidential election over the handling of the COVID-19 outbreak. Fauci, in an interview, remember, called for an urgent change in America's policy on COVID-19. Fauci had warned that the United States is headed for, and I'm quoting now, a whole lot of hurt unless it makes an abrupt change in its health practices. Fauci said the pandemic situation is only going to worsen amid the flu season. He is also a member of the White House task force on COVID-19. So his comments have been dominating headlines in America. He said that Americans have been ignoring health practices. The top infectious diseases expert was all praise for President Trump's rival, Joe Biden. On the other hand, he said that Biden is taking it seriously from a public health perspective. The comments were criticized by White House, which accused Anthony Fauci of playing politics. It said that Fauci broke all the norms by making his political leanings public. Fauci and Trump have often disagreed on the COVID-19 response of America. The United States is the worst hit country due to COVID-19. In mid-October, Trump had called Fauci a disaster. Joining us live on the broadcast this minute from Washington, D.C. is our correspondent Simon Marks. Hi, Simon. In the run-up to the election, the COVID-19 response by the Trump administration has now emerged as the primary factor when it comes to which way the voters will actually view their final decision. In terms of the latest remarks coming in from Donald Trump, what's your assessment of, one, the argument that he has made, and second, the remarks that have been made by Fauci himself, slamming Trump's COVID-19 response?
Well, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Molly. The voters face a completely stark choice on that particular issue. You've got Joe Biden, who is saying to the public, you cannot chart economic recovery. You cannot put the country back on the road to prosperity unless you have a strategy for controlling the spread of the virus. And he has seized upon comments that were made a few days ago here by President Trump's White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, who said, we're not even going to try and control the virus. We can't control the virus. All we can do is pour money into therapeutics and vaccines. The Democrats say that is absolute evidence that it is now the White House strategy to essentially let the virus rip through society unless and until there is some medical treatment for either preventing it or mitigating its worst impacts. President Trump has no national strategy for controlling COVID-19. He doesn't pretend about that. He thinks everything should be arranged and determined by the 50 individual American states, because he argues you can go to parts of the country that are predominantly rural and there are relatively low level number of cases that are being exhibited, and then you can go to urban areas and big cities where COVID-19 has had a much bigger impact. Dr. Fauci is doing what Dr. Fauci has always done here for 40 years, offering untrammeled, undiluted public health advice based on his long scientific and medical career to the president. This president happens to be a Republican. Anthony Fauci has worked with Republican presidents before. He's worked with Democrat presidents before. He is telling Americans what he genuinely believes, which is that this country, in his words, could not be in a worse position to deal with the onset of COVID-19 as the autumn and winter temperatures start setting in here and respiratory diseases start to spread. But Donald Trump at his rallies, and you heard it there, has thousands of supporters demanding the firing of Anthony Fauci. But as you also heard there, he's hinting that he would only do that after the election. Throughout this COVID-19 experience, Donald Trump has seemed very reluctant to fire Anthony Fauci, perhaps aware that in sort of medical and public health terms, that would be just as controversial a move publicly as the move that he took earlier in the presidency to fire his FBI director, James Comey.
And we're talking about America's top infectious diseases expert amid a pandemic which has already infected millions, and America being the worst hit in the world. Simon, the countdown has now truly begun. A lot of anticipation in the air. It's already been called the most important election in America. Well, the same remark might have been made in the past as well, but you have covered several elections. What sets this election apart from the previous polls, according to you?
If you listen to the candidates, Molly, it's always the most important election in American history, but there is no question that this is an absolutely critical week for the United States and therefore for the world. And I have to say, there is a tremendous sense of anxiety and foreboding here. If you go down to the center of Washington, D.C., every single shop, department store, office building, all their facades are now covered in wooden boarding amid fears here that there could be unrest on the streets over the course of the next few days. There is a tremendous sense of tension in society more broadly about the outcome of this election, and it's being fed in part by the fact that the two candidates and their campaigns have lawyered up to the hilt. President Trump is clearly planning to challenge the rules on postal voting in some of the absolutely critical swing states, Pennsylvania and Ohio, within minutes of polling closing tomorrow night. The president keeps insisting that the country must know the outcome of the election in the early hours of Wednesday morning. Well, there's nothing in law that says that that is the case. He keeps intimating that postal votes have never been counted before. Well, of course, they have been counted before. And in the case of a razor-thin margin separating President Trump from Joe Biden in, say, Pennsylvania, which is shaping up once again to be an absolutely critical determinant of the outcome of this election, those postal votes themselves will be a critical determinant as to which candidate wins the state. So huge stakes here. The two candidates going hell for leather again today. Donald Trump, I think, has got 6 rallies in the 24 hours that lies ahead.
Right.
Joe Biden's having 1 event in Ohio and then 2 in Pennsylvania, culminating with a big concert alongside Lady Gaga. All
right, we're going to leave it there for the moment. Simon Marks, appreciate very much you joining us on the broadcast this